So I wanted to talk about this for about 3 years, but things came up and I just never really got round to it. But there was a show, it was on a cable network, and it's called I Survived. And it was about people who had got into real predicaments, some because they were, and please excuse the wind, I'm using one of these, but I don't know if the wind gets pretty ferocious here in Tasmania, so we're right near the river here, as you can see in the background, so we get wind off the river. But anyway, this show called I Survived, it's about people getting into predicaments that are basically life and death, and some are by accident and some are through stupidity. And I'm going to talk about one incident which I found particularly sad. All these people survived, obviously, because they wouldn't be able to have these shows done about their plight at the time. But there was this one person who went to the Amazon rainforest and obviously didn't do much in the way of research about what happens if this happens, how would I survive if this happened? Should I take another person with me? Should I let people know where I'm going? And all this kind of thing. All sort of basic survival things that you would think someone from the West in particular who isn't familiar with that sort of area would do to prepare for something like that. So they didn't do that, and they went into the Amazon rainforest and they took their dog with them, and their dog's name was Cashew. And I dedicate this video to Cashew. If you have any interest in veganism, that being the ethical position about why we should not use animals as resources and things, then please stick around. So Cashew went along with this particular person and into the Amazon rainforest. And unfortunately, because this guy was not prepared, he became thoroughly lost. I think he was in a kayak with his dog, and the kayak overturned, and the dog fell out of the kayak, and he also fell out, and he ended up in an area he wasn't familiar with. Of course, the whole Amazon rainforest could be said, if you're not familiar with a small area of it that you're in big trouble. So he went totally unprepared, didn't really take any. I can't believe somebody could actually do this, but so also taking a dog into the Amazon rainforest I think is kind of stupid as well. But anyway, so he overturned the kayak and he managed to get to land, and the dog, he didn't know where the dog went. The dog obviously must have been washed down the river, and so he was sort of lost. He didn't know where he was. He didn't really have any, it didn't seem like he had any supplies, any water, any kind of food. It just seemed like, from what I remember, it just seemed really incredible. You wouldn't even go on a short walk really without something, but you wouldn't go on a hike, even a sort of an hour's hike without something, or 2 hours hike. So there we go. So here he is, lost in the Amazon rainforest. I don't think anybody knew where he was. They might have known that he left, or somebody noticed that he had gone, and maybe they knew that he was there somewhere in this rainforest. I can't remember the details, but during that time that he was only in there, I think it was probably a week or maybe a week and a half. I don't think it was very long. But his dog came back to him after it found him. Managed to find him after about, I don't know, a few days, and and he seemed very excited to meet, to see his dog again, Cashew. Anyway, I'm guessing that he wasn't really lost that long. It was probably less than 2 weeks, probably not even a week maybe. But he didn't know what to eat. He didn't recognize any plants, and so he ended up killing his dog, the dog who had spent a couple of days trying to get back to him. He ended up killing his dog and eating him. Now, apart from the fact that that humans can actually live for at least 6 weeks easy, as long as you have water, you can actually last for 6 to 8 weeks easy. You'll lose some weight, of course, but you can function quite okay. There are plenty of people who have done very long fasts, water fasts, and you actually end up being quite energetic. And so if he'd known anything about just basic survival skills, he would have known that you can basically survive on water for at least 6 to 8 weeks, and you might lose a bit of weight, but you'll be fine. you get used to it after about a day or two of being. I know that I've been on some short water fasts, and the first day or so is hard if you've got toxins in your system, and also just getting used to it. But after that, the first day is tricky, but then you start to feel really energetic, and it's really good for you. But anyway, so and there are people who have done very long fasts and they're fine. But anyway, he didn't know this, and he ended up killing this poor friend, animal friend of his, and eating him. And I wonder if if he had been with a human, would he have thought about knocking that human on the head and eating them? I mean, he might have been in there a week before he decided to do that, but still, he probably wouldn't have killed his human friend. And why is that? Because we consider our own species to be morally important, and it's against the law, because killing another human being is seen as wrong. Well, to some it's seen as wrong. Western countries seem to kill people all the time in their invasions, imperialist wars, but as a general rule, it's seen as wrong to kill human beings, and because we're the same species. And the reason why this man decided to kill his canine companion, Cashew, was because ultimately, as with most of us, if we live in a non-vegan world where most of us do not view animals as moral persons, meaning they're just not a thing, we don't see them as belonging to the moral community, that they're animals that are really here ultimately, they're here for us to use, eat, wear and use, then he's going to default to that position if he feels that his life is in danger. It wasn't in danger, but being really, really unprepared and ignorant and speciesist, he decided he was going to kill his dog. And what a betrayal that is, really. And this is the thing, that we compartmentalize all the time animals. Some we consider here for our entertainment, others we consider here to be companions, or therapy dogs and all that kind of thing. And then there are others whom we and we consider them family members, and there are others whom we eat parts of their body or drink their secretions that were meant for their young. We have all sorts of compartmentalized places for these different species. And dogs and cats and animals like that are viewed as family members often. But that didn't even save Cashew from being viewed as something, as a resource for this man. And that's because we live in a non-vegan world where ultimately, no matter how we may consider that animal as a family member, when push comes to shove, when we think push comes to shove, we might sacrifice that animal. It happens sadly when people are evicted, or when people get tired of the animal that they're living with, or they become inconvenient in some way. They are sort of sacrificed, basically sent off to a kill shelter where they're either killed, or there's a group that believes in or helps save these refugees of domestication. But even people say, like David Attenborough, and I've talked about his recent movie about the planet, his recent documentary. Even he, as much as he loves non-human animals, he's still speciesist, because he still eats fish. He promoted a plant-based diet, I understand, in this movie. I haven't seen it and probably won't, because these sort of things upset me, seeing what we're doing to animals on the planet. But he still eats fish, which is amazing that somebody who loves animal life on this planet can't do what they say they want other people to do, that he promoted in his movie. From what I have been told, he promoted people eating a plant-based diet because animal agriculture and all of that, fishing and everything, is leading to incredible devastation. Just putting aside the awful thing of killing billions and billions and billions of moral persons, billions of non-human animals who are sentient, for completely trivial reasons of mostly palate pleasure, since we don't need animal products at all to survive. We can easily meet all our nutrition requirements from plants and other non-animal sources. So all of this terrible violence and suffering that we impose on animals is all because we think these animals taste good. We don't need them. David Attenborough was talking about this in his movie, trying to get people to stop consuming animal products, he can't stop consuming fish who are sentient. And what's happening to the oceans is really appalling if you check out Seaspiracy on Instagram. So anyway, back to Cashew. Like so many other animals, like animals that are on mom and pop farms, and the people say, oh, I love those animals there, you know, and we have names for them even. There's somebody up the road had 12 cows, and she said how much she loves them. I'm not sure if she had names for them. I think maybe she actually said she didn't want to give them names because eventually she was going to have to take them off to be slaughtered. And those animals trusted her. They trusted her, and they'd come up to her when they'd see her, just like that Cashew came up to his human friend when he was lost, and he was so happy to see that human friend. And then that human friend betrayed him and murdered him for completely trivial reasons, because he could have survived easily without any food for at least a couple of months. And even so, I mean, surely there must be something in the Amazon rainforest, some fruit-bearing tree or something, that he could have, you know, eaten. He could have eaten some fruit up there. There must have been something. You would think he would have done some sort of investigation into that. But anyway, I digress. So the betrayal of Cashew is so similar to the betrayal of all the animals that are on these small farms. Their babies are taken from them and, you know, either killed because they're no use as dairy in the dairy industry, or, you know, they're just taken from them and given to some other farmer because she has too many cows. There's all those different things, but all these animals are very trusting of the people who are supposedly they think are their friends, and then they're betrayed. These, you know, I don't know how people can do this really, but they have a farm, they look after these animals. Some people even have names for them. There's a person down the road who has a farm, and I heard her calling one of those cows a name. You know, I don't know how they do it, how they kind of can bring themselves to just, you know, send them off to be killed. Seriously. And yet they do, over and over again, and this happens all over the world. On industrialized farms, like the big industrialized free range, in quotes, and the big industrialized, even bigger than that, they don't know the names of these animals, but they're all just like Cashew, all love life, just like we do, and do not want to die. And even though there's incredible suffering in those industrialized farms, the free range, the enriched cages and all of that, the barn laid, all those pretend humane, in quote, labels that are just really just, they're just scams to sell expensive animal products. It's still a horror house there, and the slaughterhouse is a horror house. And these animals that trusted us, you know, these animals that trust us, this is what we do to them. And even the ones that in these large industrialized farms, they may not have any sort of connection to their keepers, but they love life just like we do, just like Cashew did, and did not want to die. And yet every single day, literally tens of thousands. I mean, it's, you know, there's 1 to 3 trillion land and aquatic animals killed every single year for trivial reasons and mostly palate pleasure. That is a staggering amount of sentient animals' lives. And all for what? Why are we doing this? You know, like when I saw that I survived with that little dog who was, I think, a Rhodesian Ridgeback or something. I can't remember, but he was a tanny sort of color, and you know, and when I saw him coming back to that man, he's found his way back to him. I did not expect that he would murder him like that, and it just made me really sad. And I've never forgotten that particular show. And I always wanted to do a video about this, about that little dog, to dedicate to him, and say that I'm so very, very sorry that you and so many other non-human animals live on a planet where one species is exploiting and killing and maiming and trapping and drowning and driving out of existence such a wonderful variety of sentient animals who love life just like we do and do not want to die. And all I can say is I hope that a vegan planet happens, that I don't have to be constantly aware every day of what's going on all over the world to these sentient animals.